It's missing the point. It's the power rankings after a zany, a whimsical, a ludicrous week 1 in the NFL, and we're back. We're off. We did a preseason power rankings, but it didn't really have the testosterone, the cojones, the wonderful joie de vivre of the peak of the power ranking shows last year. I, dear listeners, have gotten a glimpse into Bobby's power rankings, and they are suitably fucking annoying to me. That I think they're fun. We're gonna have a fun show. I do, I do think that the NFL is suffering, Bob, from this writer's strike because obviously they don't have a competent script put together for this season yet, because all the writers are striking. And I think that just caused a lot of craziness in the first week of the NFL. I think what I'd like to do, I have your updated power rankings, not the ones I screenshotted to make fun of you for forgetting the Bengals.
Forgetting the fucking Bengals exist.
For forgetting the Bengals exist. I do have your real power rankings that I'm going to pull up, but I do want to talk about a couple of storylines before we jump right in. Number one, obviously being 4 snaps worth of Aaron Rodgers' time as a Jet. You laugh. I mean, I can't tell how to feel about it because I do have like a hard and fast rule about like not in like reveling in injuries for players. I also at the same time like fucking hate Aaron Rodgers, but at the same time, I'm like, you were healthy for the entirety of your run in Green Bay, you piece of shit. But now, 4 snaps played for that cursed franchise, for that woeful Jets franchise that were really finally looking up in the world. Fantasy managers that only had Aaron Rodgers left to play all over the world, just fucking so depressed.
Did you see the one that was like 0.07 points or something like that?
Like 0.06 or something absurd like that. I think it is sad for them that this has happened. It's obviously opened up a conversation about, there's a certain group of high profile quarterbacks that are not currently signed to a team. So I guess my question for you would be, if you were the Jets, do you, I'm going to make this like hell every day and practice Zach Wilson this situation, considering he had, he went and won the game for his team against, I not that impressively. I really do maintain my stance from last season that the Bills are borderline still mediocre and that Josh Allen really isn't that guy. And I think that they kind of lost the game more than the Jets won it. But do you Zach Wilson it? Do you offer Tom Brady an ungodly sum of money? Would he take it, being, having just donned a ladies' slim fit jersey and jogged around Foxborough?
That was so funny.
In his, what was up with that fucking jersey?
It's so weird, bro.
Oh my God.
The whole thing was weird.
It was like he went to TV Gap to get a TV.
It goes along with his shaved jaw.
It's very strange. He's a very strange man. I guess, like, would he take the job? Probably not. There's a shout for Colt McCoy. There's a shout for Colin Kaepernick again. We're going to go down that fucking road and have that conversation again, I guess. He's going to have another workout, whatever. Look, I mean, I'm all for everything that Colin Kaepernick did in protesting police brutality, but if we're talking about it in just football terms, I think we can safely say he had 1 to perhaps 1.5 good seasons in the NFL. And the constant talk of him, it was a great little run that he had. Don't get me wrong, super athletic, did everything really well. But at 35, not having taken an NFL snap in 6 years, I don't think that's a conversation we maintain. But overall, my question to you, Bob, is like, if you're the Jets right now, and other than like wanting to kill yourself, do you stick with Zach, or do you go to the market, or do you entertain a trade with a team? Like the Cowboys might be able to fleece them for Trey Lance.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like with the Jets, right? So you're right, it's not funny, but it's literally the most unbelievable script that you possibly could write for that week 1 game. Like with all the lead up going into it, the Hard Knocks on national TV, the Jets had their own YouTube Hard Knocks. Like everyone followed. What?
Did you watch the Jets Hard Knocks?
Yeah, I watched some of it. Listen, I actually was coming around on Rodgers coming into this season. Like, I loved all the shit talking, the Giants thing where he's like, I don't even know your name, bro. I don't even know your name. Like, I loved all that shit.
He's happy.
Yeah. So like, he was winning me over, man. And when I heard he got hurt, it's like I said, it's the most possible Jets thing that could possibly happen. They didn't even make it one fucking drive into their season before. Listen, we both had these existential football breakdowns before where like your season's over before you even get to realize that it began. And that's what just happens to them. So yeah, it's heartbreaking, but at the same time, kind of hilarious.
There was a question in the Missing the Point group chat posed this morning that I didn't want to touch because I thought it would start an argument, but it was like, do the Pats now have a realistic chance of moving up in that division? And I'm sort of mixed on it because I thought, and this is another game I kind of want to talk about from the perspective of the Patriots. I know that the Eagles are in the power ranking, but from the perspective of the Patriots, like they looked all right, to be honest. Like Mac Jones looked all right once they kind of got things going. I wonder your take from that game, and you probably be considering the time it was on, may have watched it in a red zone format like I did, and I also had the Bears on, so I wasn't watching it as deeply as perhaps the Patriots fans in our podcast might have. But was your takeaway from that game that the Eagles just didn't look themselves, or that the Pats, and Mac Jones were like just looking tidy?
I think so. To answer the first question you asked me about the Jets, they don't make a trade. They stick with Zach Wilson. Just period. They have to. They have to stick with Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
With the way their season was going, if they make a trade, that's literally the end of Zach Wilson. If they bring someone else from the outside in, then you have to get rid of Zach Wilson too, because you're telling him that.
Listen.
Yeah, but anyway, so
you already did do that though. They already went and got Rodgers. Like
you can't do it again. Like But for the Pats, man, yeah. So I think it reminded me a lot of that Bengals game from last year. Do you remember that game where the Bengals were up like 19-0, and the Pats came all the way back and they almost won, and they even had a shot of winning the game at the end of the game if a couple calls go the right way for them. So I think it's a little bit of both, to be perfectly honest. I think the Pats are a little bit better than maybe we gave them credit for, specifically because of coaching. Like they obviously have a talent deficiency compared to a lot of the teams in the NFL. But coaching wise, man, they will stick with anyone on any given Sunday. And I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, you just saw them do it to the runner ups. So obviously, like they can stick with the cream of the crop, man. But the Eagles too.
Why are we not thinking that maybe there's an Eagles hangover? We can discuss that when we get to their section.
Yeah, I mean, so I think the Eagles too is just a little bit of, like you said, hangover. They lost both their coordinators, so things are going to be shaky at the beginning, I think.
Yeah, that is like there is like sort of provable scientific evidence in to lock down what a Super Bowl hangover is, and a lot of the time it really is something that people don't talk about, which is like you guys got to the Super Bowl, so your coaching staff became coveted.
Right. Yeah, you get poached
around the rest of the league, and would you rather be an offensive coordinator on a Super Bowl runner-up team, or would you rather be a head coach of your own team? And I think most people would probably, it's your career, like you want to just keep moving up as much as you possibly can. So I do agree that they didn't look quite like the Eagles of last year, but like you said, and I think this will be a theme throughout the whole of this conversation, like it was a weird week. But anyway, we'll save the Eagles chat for them. I was suitably impressed with the Patriots, though, actually coming back, because the start of that game looked like it was going to end up how the Cowboys game ended up. They really did pull it around. And I do credit Belichick for, as much as people sort of lionize him as a tactician and as someone who can think on the fly and like never has a consistent like set game plan, like he plays so well to the weaknesses of other teams. I do think that like everybody on the Patriots is still motivated to be a Patriot, despite, I agree with you, like a noticeable dearth in talent. But anyway, if you want to hear more of an in-depth Patriots conversation here on Missing the Point, we do have a dedicated Patriots show that Mike and Ray did. So when you're done listening to this and you want more of your fix on that, please do go listen to that.
What was the snap? I'm just curious. What was the snap count for Zeke and Ramondre? I didn't.
I think Zeke got
close to 50-50.
Yeah, Zeke got some runs, but I'm pretty sure Ramondre Stevenson looked really good. He's a really good runner. So there's that.
Yeah.
Last honorable mention. What? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, what was your opinion on the YouTube TV 4-box, bro?
Love it. Love YouTube TV.
Well, it was a little overwhelming at first, correct? I didn't know what to do.
I agree with you there. A little overwhelming. And it also, like, you have to remember too, like here in Los Angeles, my games, my football day starts at 10 a.m. So
Yeah.
it on a Sunday. So Saturday night, I may have imbibed in some spirits and getting up kind of bleary eyed to try to like get the TV going. I had to take my bedroom. This is my process. Okay. Just for the listeners, I take my bedroom TV out to the living room, put it on the fireplace. I turn on the main TV. I turn on the bedroom TV. Now, obviously I had all my Sunday tickets signed up for. I canceled Hulu. I went over to YouTube, and because we live in 2023, I didn't have to have a man come to my house between the hours of 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. to like switch my cable box over, which was nice. So is DirecTV dead now? It has to be. Like, who's
I
getting?
got an ad for them the other day. I'm like, what the fuck? What are you even advertising anymore? Like, what?
Yeah, just go away. And like, I never had Sunday Ticket in like DirecTV. I would like use the Sunday Ticket app on my Apple TV, and it was awful. It was so bad. You'd be restarting the app all the time. You would be like changing the games around. And what it goes to show is that like YouTube, I think like really figured it out really quickly. But to your point, I got it on the TVs and I got the main game that I wanted to see. Like what we'll do is we'll do Red Zone on one TV and like one box of a main game. Either the Steelers or the Bears are playing at my house. My wife being a Steelers fan. So put the Steelers on the main TV for her, which obviously wasn't a pleasant experience, but which we'll talk about when we get to the 49ers, I think in the power rankings. But I tried out the 4-box on the side TV with, as the Steelers game was kicking off, I was trying to figure it out. And maybe I was too hungover or something, but I was like, just put the Red Zone on. I don't know what to do. As the day progressed, I saw people tweeting about it. I was like, okay, I need to like experiment with this. I need to figure this out. Because basically what it is it's making you Scott Hansen, right? It's
correct. You have to be the producer of your own Red Zone.
your own thing. So I think what I would love is if I was in a situation where neither the Steelers or the Bears were on, and I could focus completely on the 4-box and be like, oh, what's happening over here? Oh, what's happening over here? That I think I could really get behind. But I wasn't put in a great position from a personal standpoint to deal with it. What did you think of it? Did you really get to play with it since the Cowboys were the night game?
So at first, I definitely leaned more towards the red zone, and I almost felt like I wasted my money within the first.
Like, I just want Scott Hansen back in my.
Yeah, bro. Like, like that first 1 o'clock hour, I was like, should I have even done all this? Like, this is a lot of money for me to just switch to red zone at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Some
say, 8 straight hours of commercial free football, and I wanted that in my life for the.
Yeah. But the 4 p.m. games, though, that was a different story. The 4 p.m. games, I feel like I settled into a good zone and had 4 games going because it was the only 4 on. So it was like, it was good because you could switch between them all.
No, I thought it was 5 games on.
Was there 5 in the? I think you're right. I think it was 5.
But either way, you could, you can 4-box it, you can quad box it yourself with I think the later games, it is going to be more useful, have more utility going.
Yeah, it definitely, the 1 p.m. games is very overwhelming to have all those games because like you have to pick between 4 of them. You have to get the right box going. You know what I mean? It's like just red zone for the 1 o'clock game
situation. That's just a straight red zone situation. I think I need Big Daddy Hansen to hold my hand in those situations. But I didn't,
especially one. I need Scott in my life, bro.
Yeah, he's just so good. Like he's so. I think people underestimate what it's like to keep up that level of energy the entire time and like communicate with your producers. And he doesn't get a break.
Have you ever seen his behind the scenes, bro?
Yeah, it's wild.
His breakfast is wild when he does red zone. He eats the saltiest breakfast possible so that it can suck the moisture out of his body so he doesn't have to pee for the entire day of football. He says he doesn't pee until halftime of Sunday Night Football. That's insane.
That's bananas. And probably not good for you, to be honest. I want to keep him around.
Definitely not good for you.
Get him one of those trucker friends. The long haul truck drivers have where they just come up to their wee and it pees into like a bucket. Just let him. Who cares?
I almost said the Wizinator, but that's something completely different.
Fucking the PA with the worst job on red zone. It's just like I gotta Scott piss bucket. And you could it's like whoever fucked up that day, like whoever made a mistake has to go and empty Scott's piss bucket. You're definitely getting a call from OSHA at that point. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm not telling you guys how to do your job, but maybe let the man take the piss. Yeah, I really enjoyed. I was a little. It was too bad because for me, going into Sunday, I was obviously very excited to have football back, and then like immediately my dreams for the season were crushed. I did the classic Bears fan, like off season, convincing myself of a lot of things. And the fan base is very divided on like whose fault it is that we look that bad about. And I'll just do a brief thing on the Bears because I know that not because the Bears are in the power ranking for good reason. But I I was I've been, as you know, and I think you're one of the few people that can really, really attest to this because you have to be on the receiving end of me crying about this team so often. I have never wavered from the idea that I want to lose and win on the merit of Justin Fields. I want to win the game or lose the game based on his performance. And I'm really sick of them not letting that happen. And I was confused as to why in the big 30-year jump, we were running weak running packages. Like Khalil Herbert gets a toss out to the right and he has to go behind Chase Claypool, who has no interest in blocking. Like just looks like he doesn't want to be there. Like looks like the kid in the high school class who's just like completely checked out. He knows he's going to get an F and he's going to go like get yelled at by his fucking single mom later that day. And I'm like, I can't believe it, you know? And then we go down and there's a collective like resignation on the sidelines. Like nobody's talking to each other. Like it's week 1. And a lot of people have been like, oh, Poles didn't do like this right. He should have gotten this guy and he should have done this. And I'm like, no, I don't agree. I think we have a decent roster now. I'm not saying we're going to be fucking world beaters, but we have a decent enough roster where I just saw a lack of motivation and a really bad set of play calling, which makes me think that it's maybe our coach. And this is kind of the first year where the coach is going to get scrutinized to this point because it's, you know, you've had a year now to like instill your value system into this team. And what are you fucking doing? You know? And I just thought like to get a defensive coach in was good because that's the Bears' identity. But in this day and age, when you have a guy as talented as Fields, you gotta open him up, man. You gotta let him. Like the design runs were terrible, and we did like 3 of them, which was stupid. Our quarterback committee, we had Deontay Foreman going out to get screen passes. I'm like, have you never watched Deontay Foreman play football? Like, what are you doing? Like, he's your guy to go get screens. Like, run his ass up the middle and let Khalil Herbert break out for the fucking screens. And then finally, we have a 4th round pick as our RB3 that gives us a spark. And it's like, go fuck it, give it to Roshan. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit who's doing it. You know, like I don't care what everybody's on the where anybody is on the payroll, you know? And I just think, I don't know, it's just like the whole thing was just very upsetting. Like it was because it was against the Packers. And, you know, we're making Jordan Love believers to confirm their belief in this guy who's definitely not as good as like the last 2 guys that have played quarterback there. And we're talking about his mom in the stands and shit. And I'm like, am I really going to watch this again? The same shit again when we have like a really talented guy at quarterback. We're just not letting him win. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's very sad.
Yeah, the whole game, it was just a surprising game. How fast I lost interest in that game.
Yeah.
Is what you know what I mean? It was one of those where like I was really pumped for that Packers-Bears game. And
It was America's game of the week, for God's sake.
Yeah, and the Bears defense just didn't show up at all.
Really weird
man.
because we did for the first like 20 minutes. Like they actually did. And the problem is Eddie Jackson, I knew was going to be the biggest like problem that we didn't replace because he just gets absolutely burned and he doesn't communicate well with his teammates. And he was awful. Like he just started getting like targeted during that game. And it was really, really bad. He's number 4. He's the strong safety, if you're curious.
Yeah.
And he was just awful, like the whole game. And he just started getting exploited. And, you know, I didn't necessarily think that Tremaine Edmonds and Edwards were going to be these like life-changing defensive additions, but they were at least like at the start, like guiding the line. They were like, go right. And they're like, you know, the line would slide to the right and we would hit a hole like a lot better. And like, we got a couple of sacks out of that. And I was like, great, these guys can read the fucking offense. Like these are good. That's where I want that. The linebackers position is where I want those guys with those brains to like make those calls, you know? But yeah, then we just started, our secondary is still such a problem. Our corners are decent, but our safeties are still such a problem. And it's just, but I really do think it seemed like I know our offensive coordinator is good, is the thing. Like, I know he's good. but he just didn't seem to be able to do what he was like kind of set out there to do. I don't know. It's very fucking depressing.
Yeah, the lack of willingness to try and force DJ Moore into a game plan too, I thought was kind of weird.
Fuck. It was like he
Yeah,
was
man.
there, especially
He caught he literally he caught two. It seemed like they thought about it in the second quarter. They forced two balls into him. We caught them both.
Yeah,
And then I don't think
and
he didn't do anything else the rest of the game, right?
it's like that's what I'm saying. It's like
Yeah, it was weird.
situation where I'm like, yo, like they're letting Derek Carr take shots down the fucking sidelines in New Orleans. Like they're letting him take shots, like, and they're coming off sometimes. And I'm like, we're not trusting Justin Fields. So like, I think he's got a good deep ball. Like, I don't understand. Like,
Do you think it's that they think that they can kind of battle for that they still feel like that they have something to lose? So they get really conservative and they think that maybe they can ball control themselves the way into the
that's
playoffs and don't let Fields make
that's
mistakes. And
unacceptable right now. That's
I agree, but I'm just trying. It's the only thing I
agree
can
that
think of. You know what I mean?
I think that is what they're doing. But I think the problem
Right?
is when it's happening and it's starting to unravel as you're doing that, sticking to that game plan is not an acceptable thing to do. You have to start
Yeah,
to
agreed.
you have to let the most creative improvisational quarterback in the league do that shit. You know what I mean? And like
There's a reason the Cardinals were good with Kyler Murray for 2 years.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. And it's like I was looking at Fields at the start and he looked super fucking confident and he had a swagger about him. And the first couple of drives started kind of work, but then it was like, there was like some bad luck at the start because I think that the refs gave us a tough spot on a 4th and 1 that we went for with Fields where I think we got it, but it was like, it was marginal. Like it could have gone either way. And it was two dumb play call choices because it was like, we had Cole Kmet run a fucking sneak, which we didn't get on 3rd and 1, which was fucking dumb. Because for me, and again,
You're the Chiefs.
yeah, I mean, dude, but for me, it's like, bro, have Justin Fields back there. Give him a 3-choice option. You know what I mean? Like let him read it. To fake a fucking QB sneak with Justin Fields, you might actually be able to kill them, you know, like when they're piling up on the fucking line of scrimmage and all you need is one guy to beat somebody deep and he can be fast enough to do a little wheel route. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, give him the option to make the call, you know, give him some codes to like, to do it. And maybe it has something to do with the fact that a lot of this is my hope. In week 1 against your biggest rival coming into your house, I'm hoping it's because a lot of these guys have not played together for very, like, it's a very, very, very fresh roster. And like, maybe we can just get our communication down a little bit better and like just go a little bit. But there was a moment, Bobby, like I bought my TV like last Cyber Monday or fucking Black Friday or whatever you call it. And there was a moment where Khalil Herbert like got a screen pass and Chase Claypool had like one guy to guard and he just like, or to block. And he just like, dude. And I thought I was going to smash my television. I like, I was looking at Chase on his noisy as fuck. I thought I was going to smash my fucking TV. Like I was like, I'm going to throw a fucking beer through this television right now because of Chase fucking Claypool. Like this is insane how lazy that just was. No, he dropped a pass the one time you looked at him. Like, I would bet you, honestly, I hate to say it because I thought coming in on paper, it was like a good wide receiver 3 situation, but I'm like, fuck him. Like, no, unacceptable. Also, who's the motivator? Who's the motivator on the sidelines? Because everybody was quiet as a fucking mouse when we went down. And then when we finally looked like we had some life, we immediately gave up a touchdown. So it's like, then we were no longer in the game. So it was tough. It was tough. I don't want to keep losing. I really don't want to keep losing. It's not a nice feeling. But anyway, on to brighter and broader pastures. We're going to start talking about these power rankings. Number 10, the Ravens. I didn't think they deserved a place anywhere near the top 10 after that Lamar Jackson outing, after that game of just like two terrible teams, if I'm being honest, playing each other. I don't think they have anybody. I think now that huge injury to their backfield is going to derail their season. Maybe you're just braver than I would be if I was making the power rankings, because I would know for a fact that the Ravens are not going to stay on this list, and I wouldn't want to be the one like changing them around a ton. But what is it that you see in the Ravens that gets them to this number 10 spot?
I just don't listen. JK Dobbins to me isn't that big of a loss because JK Dobbins is a loss every goddamn season of the NFL. He gets hurt every year, so it's like, that at that point is expected. And Zay Flowers is I know we talked about like OBJ. We talked about all these guys that he's the best Zay Flowers is one of the best wide receivers Lamar's ever had. And he looked really good on Sunday. And if they can actually have a real connection, and then you have Bateman and OBJ as your backup wide receivers, as like your compliments, I don't know if the running back matters much if you have Lamar there. You know what I mean? I feel like you go by committee. You can do Gus Edwards and was Justice Hill at 2 touchdowns. So I just, with the way that they're set up, I don't think Dobbins is that big of a loss. And if Zay Flowers is real, you got to look out for them, man. You got to look out for them because if he can have a real pass connection with a legit wide receiver, and you still have to worry about his legs, he's going to be tough to stop.
Maybe, but I mean, they played the Houston fucking Texans, Bobby, and like their defense.
That's true.
Defense still looks like bad. Like, I think if you put a real offense up against that defense, that's not gonna be a good look for them. I think that they have all the hallmarks of a team that are gonna get found out. But hey, you're not wrong about Flowers. He cooked against me in fantasy, although I still won, thankfully, thanks to the 53 points that the Dallas Cowboys defense gave me. Thank you for.
Absurd.
But I think you're right about the backfields with Lamar and his wheels. But I do think you're also just sort of depending again on this kind of like strike force offense with no real kind of depth to it. Mark Andrews is going to be injury prone this year. It looks like. I don't know, man. That deep.
Which like who else? So the Jets were another team I almost put here. You know that, and who else would be here though? It's like I guess the Seahawks. Maybe the Seahawks look pretty good.
To be quite honest with you, the Tampa Buccaneers look pretty good.
The Bucs did look. Baker looked pretty. He looked all right.
He looked
right?
Okay. It's a weird week 1, so I'm not like subscribing to anything intense.
Yeah, week 1 power rankings are always, it's like,
totally. I think that there's some teams that maybe like underperformed. Like, to be honest, did you have the Chargers on here?
Nope.
So like they participated in the best game of Sunday and like the most fun game to watch on Sunday. And I thought that maybe they could sneak in based on that merit because as much as the Dolphins looked great and they really pulled it off, and I think they deserve their place in the power rankings, I think like the Chargers really participated in the entertainment value of that game. And it was a wild fucking game and I really enjoyed it. And I thought maybe just on that merit alone, they might sneak in. They still look woefully flawed, but I do think that they have a ton of talent. I think they're going to end up with a better record than the Dolphins this year, but we'll see. Who's next? The Jags. Yeah. Kind of a plucky, a plucky sort of young, burgeoning team. I think that, I think that I've never not believed in Lawrence, but I knew that he needed a couple of years. And now I wouldn't call it a make or break year for him or anything, but I think what we're seeing is like his talent, helping the talent around him emerge. And I think we kind of saw that was what was going to happen. I think he showed some really good game management from a young QB. I still think his pocket awareness is elite. I think it has been since he came into the league. I think he's got really borderline like Tom Brady circa 2007, like pocket awareness. Like how the fuck did he know that guy was coming around the blind side kind of a thing. I really enjoy watching him play football. He's got glorious hair and they're kind of likable. The Jags are kind of likable right now with the players that they have and the skill position players that they have. And I'm not sure they might make the playoffs this year. I'm not sure they're going to do much after that, but I think that they might be some team to watch out for in the next like 2 seasons. Because I think I said 2 to 3 last year about them. So in the next like 1 to 2 seasons, I think that they're going to be some maybe perhaps a force to be reckoned with. And I think they might be there or thereabouts in this power ranking. What made you put them in here?
Calvin Ridley. It was the determining factor here for me. We knew what they were last year. They're a plucky team. No one saw them coming. And they definitely made some noise against maybe the worst playoff defeat in the history of the NFL. So that definitely is what brought them to the forefront. But now you look at a team that has a legit number one for a possible elite quarterback with a top 10 running back, and then you have a top 10 defense to go along with it, and you have a coach that's already won a Super Bowl. So it's like you just add all those things up in the weakest division in the league. They're going to be mainstays on this power rankings. I have a feeling this year. I think they're going to be there. all year, just because of the fact, like I said, there's no one else in that division, I think, that compares to them. I mean, you look at their division this week, Texans stink, Colts stink, Titans look horrible. So I don't think they have any competition in that division. It's gonna be they might, 9-8, 10-7, but they're gonna be in control of that division the whole way, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I believe that. I don't. I think we're going to learn a lot about them this Sunday because they play the Chiefs. We're going to learn a lot about the Chiefs as well. We'll talk about them a little bit later. Your immediate
Imagine.
is funny again this year. But that's fine. I think that's going to be an interesting game because I think it's a bounce back game for the Chiefs, coming off a game they probably shouldn't have lost, and in prime time on Thursday night. And I think that everything you said about this is true. Them staying thereabouts in the power rankings is questionable, but I think we'll see. I mean, if they can produce week in and week out like they did this weekend, then it's definitely possible. I'm gonna buy you a microphone stand and mail it to your house just for the record.
Is it still doing it?
You're fucking with it. You're like messing around with your microphone. Time to record the
Sorry. What doing?
Anyway, yeah, okay. I mean, interesting. Watch this space with the Jags. I think that's a perfectly reasonable spot for them to be. The Buffalo Bills, man. I don't know. I think they missed their opportunity. I think that their window is closing. I think that there's a reason they've fallen down to 8th on the power rankings when, correct me if I'm wrong, they started off like 2 or 3 to start of.
Yeah, they were.
They are still on paper a wagon, but I think that there's things falling apart at the seams out there that we're not 100% privy to. I believe the rumors that Stephon Diggs is not into Josh Allen as a QB anymore. I genuinely do believe those rumors, despite them not sort of set in stone as like a provable thing. But I'm not that into Josh Allen as a QB because I thought for a couple of seasons that he was being forced into making plays because he didn't have a good offensive line and he couldn't establish a run game with the backfield behind him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What I think I'm learning now is that he's not a good decision maker. He's not a good decision maker when he really, really needs to be. He doesn't see. It's the opposite problem to what most quarterbacks have, where he's looking down the seams and deep downfield when he has a 10-yard check down throw right fucking in front of him, which must be very frustrating for Bills fans because I think it's hard to play quarterback in the NFL. Don't get me wrong, and we're all armchairing it. But from our angle, when you can see that 10-yard guy going across the first down marker and you're just like, there he is, you got him. And then he throws it into like a triple coverage. You're like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? I think he'd be dumb.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem that we're facing here. What do you think?
It seems like his problem is anytime he's under any kind of pressure, like with anyone in his face, he forces that off his back foot all the time. And then in the red zone, man, he makes so many red zone mistakes. It's unbelievable.
Because he's not a good short yard.
It's
not
so weird too
Courage
because
to
like
be. He doesn't make those decisions correctly.
but he's the most unstoppable red zone weapon in the NFL at this point. He's a fullback and a quarterback mixed into one. How the hell are you making this many red zone mistakes, man? It's crazy to me. The throw over the middle was the most inexcusable. The one in the double coverage deep into the end zone, man. I don't know what the hell he was doing there. I know you guys made the comparison earlier of Dak, and it's like the fact that Josh Allen is being brought up with Dak Prescott. It is not a crazy thing at this point in the season. I would have thought a couple times during that Bills game.
This time last year, though.
That's what I mean, man. It's crazy how fast they've fallen. I personally think it has a lot to do with Dabble. He was the reason I feel like look what he did with Jones last year. You know what I mean? Take away that Cowboys game yesterday. Last year, Daniel Jones was literally what happened to Josh Allen previously to that. Is he was this quarterback that had all these turnovers, that had all these question marks. Dabble comes in, right? And Daboll, I don't even know how.
I think
Daboll, right?
but sure.
Daboll. He comes in and turns Allen into this, I think he was runner-up for MVP, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, no turnovers. He leaves, Allen's turnovers skyrocket, and Daniel Jones' turnovers plummet as soon as he goes there. So it's like,
we know he's a good coach. I mean, I know that currently his stock isn't super high this week after what just happened, but I mean, he might hate Daniel Jones. I don't know what Daniel Jones ever did to him, but he's
that was rough.
it's like Chris Collinsworth is like, yeah, he's still in there for reasons. This is like, oh my fucking God.
The only reason he could have been in there that late is because he was getting punished. I swear to God.
It really does seem like it, but who knows? I think, yeah, you could be right. You could be right. Why not just still do the things that he taught you then? You know, like, why not just remember the things that he taught you to not suck? I mean, I know that might be an oversimplification, but like you sort of alluded to, it's like the physical gifts that this guy has. It's like, it's got to be mental mistakes. Like, I'm putting it on him more than like the play calling and stuff, because I saw how the plays would work if he would make plays. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a situation where you're like, why the fuck are you handing it off right there? Like, it's not that. It's, dude, that guy was wide open. Like, what are you doing? Or like, dude, there was a pocket for you to run into right there. Like, what are you doing? Like, there was a lot of that. So that makes me more nervous, if that makes sense, about like his future. But I mean, the physical gifts that he has, it does seem like he should be getting coached into positions where he can succeed, or he should be at this point with his experience at this point, he should be making better decisions at the NFL level, but he just isn't. And the Bills might be the first team to really fall apart, like to really like.
He lost in that game, 100%, and he lost that game.
Not the only time I've ever seen him lose the game for his team. Is the thing. Yeah. Also playoff situations, you know? So yeah, not the powerhouse that I sort of.
No, that was the biggest shock of week. For Rodgers to go out like that too, and then you still lose to that game, bro. Like, come on, you can't.
I mean, but maybe there was a rally. Maybe there was a rally. Like, we lost our guy. I don't know. I think it was perfectly acceptable to put them still in the power rankings based on their roster. I know Mike was like all on you, like, no, it has to be this, it has to be this, just basing all his opinions on week ones. Like, every single factor he wanted out of the power rankings had to be what happened in week one. And it's like, that's just not how power rankings work. You know, you have to factor in their roster, factor in their past performances over the last season, et cetera, et cetera.
And the projections for what's happening moving forward.
Schedule and stuff like that. So, you know, Mike wanting to just, it's like, okay, well, who had the best win? They're number one. Who had the second best win? They're number two. It's like, that's not how it works. But I think there's merit in keeping them in the power rankings based on the wagon that they still are on paper. But I think there also might be a chance that we don't see them there for.
Yeah, they're hanging. They're hanging by a thread for sure.
Watch this space. Like I said about the Buffalo Bills, the Detroit Lions come in at number 7 after just finishing up a conversation about week one performances not being the only factor in a power rank. The Lions at number 7. I think I was the first one on the show to tell you guys that this was going to be a good Lions team. I was predicting that the NFC North would be the Lions division this year. I'm on record on the prediction show saying it. I think they made a lot of really, really good roster decisions. They did stuff I wanted the Bears to do. They, I think, have a really talented receiving core that's underrated. I think that they have better guys on their defense than they did last year. I think that I don't think Goff is very good, but like, as far as like to win them, silverware, but they performed very well. What I will say is, to get them at number 7 on the power rankings after the Kansas City Chiefs clearly lost a lot more. And let me rephrase that. Kadarius Toney clearly lost them a lot more than the Lions won it. And, we can just fold the Chiefs conversation into this there. And, spoiler alert, but they're at number 3 on the power rankings. I think well deserved. They're still the fucking Super Bowl champions. And as much as they didn't have a good game, Travis Kelce was hurt, et cetera, et cetera. I would love to address something that I've seen in our group chat all over the internet. And that is the response to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs has been so much more based on how people feel about Patrick Mahomes' girlfriend and the general Chiefs fan base than his actual football play. And the fact of the matter is, and this is just something I have to tell everybody that's like in any way trying to talk about sports intelligently. If you're reacting to the reaction of a team, then you're not speaking intelligently about the team. If you're reacting to their game, you saw Patrick Mahomes. What else did you want Patrick Mahomes to do? What like?
Yeah.
What exactly? It's like, well, Tom Brady never got let off the hook for this and this. I'm like, listen, he got from Nelson Aguilar. This is his wide receiver. He can't make excuses for not having the guys. It's like, dude, when he hit those guys in the fucking hands, they caught the fucking ball. So Tom was able to succeed with guys that were not as good or like not superstars on paper, but at least they still caught the fucking passes he threw to them. If Kadarius Toney bet on the Chiefs to lose, he couldn't have done a better job of facilitating their losses. There's a photo going around of him like this in the perfect catching position, and the fucking ball right here, and the caption being, "This resulted in a pick 6 for the Lions." It's like, what do you want Patrick Mahomes to do? What do you want?
Well, and that was the turning point of the game too. I mean, if you look at that picture, if you look in the upper right-hand corner of that picture, all you see is green. So Toney catches that ball, man. He scampers for at least 30 to 40 yards. And the Chiefs, I think, are at that point, we're up, I think it was like 14-7 or something like that. So they would have went up 2 scores. It's very tough to come back on the Kansas City Chiefs 2 scores. Instead of 6 tie game, I think actually the Lions went up at that point, maybe. I don't know. But it was a huge swing. And then the other one, too, where Toney dropped the ball in the red zone, bro. Another one that's right in his goddamn hands. It's like
he almost made that 4th and 25 play. He hit a receiver in the hands on 4th and 25 pass.
Yeah. That's was it Sky Moore at that one? I think.
Yeah. What do you want him to? Wait, like unless you want him to throw the ball to himself, I don't understand where the Patrick Mahomes got.
Yeah, and it's like you're totally right about the Kelsey thing too. It's like, listen, if Kelsey's in the game, 12 of those targets that Mahomes throws goes to Kelsey, and he catches 10 of them for 164 yards and 2 touchdowns. So it's like, yes, it is a completely different game if Kelsey's in there. It's a completely different game if the Chiefs can catch the ball. The Lions still had to capitalize on it, you know. And I don't think that we saw the best football out of them.
I'm not taking anything away. I say that. I'm reacting to the gleeful social media run about Patrick Mahomes in comparison. Like, first of all, I told everybody it's too early to be making Tom Brady comparisons anyway. So if you're going to beat him with the fucking stick of like, oh, well, Tom Brady, da-da-da, bitch, he needs 5 more Super Bowls to be compared to fucking Tom Brady. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
we did that math.
We're a long, long way away from that. Like, you can't arbitrarily decide that he's in the race with Tom Brady and then beat him up for not being Tom Brady after he's in his fucking late 20s. Tom Brady played until he was 86. It's just give him a minute. You know what I mean? Like, before we start making those comparisons. Additionally, I understand that the Chiefs fan base is probably quite annoyed about, like, you know, their recent success, but I don't really pay attention to that because it's like, that's every fan base. Like, every fucking fan base has some sort of vocal minority. It's going to be dicks when they win and idiots when they lose. That's just how it is. I'm just trying to watch the game and analyze the game. And unless he's throwing the ball up in the air and then running the route and catching it and scoring it, I don't know what the fuck else is supposed to do. I genuinely don't. Also, I think their running backs, like, really, they're like things I really
don't have running backs, bro. They like
really
don't
strange because I really thought Pacheco was going to be this like big breakout star this year because watching him run, he used to run so hard and all of a sudden he like doesn't anymore. McKinnon's like a third down option.
They didn't use him, bro. Yeah, I don't understand.
And then Edwards-Helaire has like always been too undersized and like never really worked. You can throw him on special packages and stuff, but that's where I worry about them, to be honest with you, because people are like, oh, I have this big wide receiver issue. And it's like, yeah, no, they do. They definitely do. But I also think that Patrick Mahomes is the kind of guy that can make that work. I think you have to probably bench at least Kadarius Toney. You have to bench him, right? Or like, what do you do? Like, what? Because it's like he was doing everything right. Like, he was running the right routes. He was getting open. He was getting separation. And then he would come up these drops. It's like, that's a confidence issue. So I don't know what you do there. Do you bench him? Is that going to make it worse? Like, do you try to get him back in the game? But he's a fucking liability. It can't get any worse. It can't, like, because he can't have a worse performance than the performance he had in that game. But yeah, like I said, I don't want to keep talking about the Chiefs because I don't want to take anything away from the Lions. I do think that they look a lot better. I don't think Jared Goff's the guy. And, you were saying like, wow, this Lions defense looks like super legit. I'm like, I disagree with you on that one because I think like anybody would look super legit if you were getting gift wrap fucking pick sixes. I mean,
That's true.
I
That's
think
true.
they are better than last year. I do, but I don't think they're as much better as they made them look. But I'm not trying to take anything away from them, honestly. I think
Who do they have week 2?
the
Who do they have week
Lions.
2?
I'm
Pretty,
let me
yeah.
check.
Hang on, see. Week 2 and
Seahawks.
Seahawks. That'd be a
Good
good game.
game. We'll
We'll see.
learn a lot. We'll learn a lot in week 2. Here we are again saying we'll learn a lot next week. We'll do that until week 16.
Until week 15, yeah. And then we're just gonna be like, "Well, Chiefs are the best fucking."
But yeah, I mean, look, it's we'll see how it goes for the Lions. I think I don't want to overreact on them, and I also don't want to overreact on the Chiefs. So it was a good Thursday night game. It was close. I enjoyed it. Hell of a lot closer than the Sunday night game. I'll tell you that much. Although I actually quite enjoyed that one too. Coming in number 6 is the woefully underperforming but very highly paid Joe Burrow and his Cincinnati Bengals. I thought that I don't think this is why the Bengals lost. I do think they really underperformed, but I will point out a few things. One, they always start slow. They always start slow every single season. And then everybody's eating. Everything is and the year before. And everybody is eating crow by the time Christmas rolls around. Everybody. So I'm not doing that this year. Maybe they don't pull it around this year, but I'm not going to be the one to write them off. I'll say a few things. One, I thought the Browns defense actually looked really good. I'm not making excuses
Really
for Burrow. I think, if you get a contract like that, you can't be throwing sub 100-yard games. That's fucking, I don't care what defense you're playing. I don't care if you're playing the fucking robots that do the Fox NFL Sunday countdown shit. It doesn't matter. You got to throw over 100 yards if you get paid that kind of money. No excuses there. But
probably be tough to get 100 yards.
Yeah, well, if you're getting paid that kind of money, you better fucking figure it out. The fact is though, like Myles Garrett, like I think was me and Mike's pick for defensive player of the year. He looked every bit the defensive player. You look like
Did you see the crossover? Did you see the crossover gift?
Mention that, and it's like he's a stud, that guy. And I think his leadership and his performance make that whole defense's level rise up like a rising tide. Floats all ships, whatever that fucking expression is. He looked unbelievable. I wouldn't have wanted to play against him. If I was Joe Burrow, I probably would have been shitting myself too, thinking about my Bugatti or whatever. But in saying that, I still think that the Bengals are going to figure it out. I think that the Browns are not going to be better than them this season. I don't think they have a chance of like finishing higher than the Bengals in this division. I would be very surprised. I think the Browns are probably better than they've been in our lifetimes right now, to be honest with you, but they're still the fucking good Browns. So I'm not doing that. Like I'm not doing it. I'm not entertaining that. But they would have maybe been a decent shot for number 10 of the power rankings also putting it up. But, what'd you think? What'd you think of the game? Are you worried? Do you think that they'll pull it around again? Is Joe Burrow done? Does he not give a shit anymore because he got that contract? Doesn't seem like that kind of got him.
No, I think he just didn't play at all during training camp. I mean, he was, I think he had, what is it? He had the calf or the thigh or whatever it was. Then he was getting that contract. And I just think, like you said, they start slow. And of course you're going to start slow. And literally you're not getting any reps with anyone until that first game. Like, and it clearly showed. But I think they're going to be fine. I do think the Browns are definitely a team to look out for if they can figure out that offensive identity and Watson can figure his shit out. I think that they could definitely be a force to reckon with because, as we all know, the first thing that shows up every year is elite defense. It's the first thing that you can tell on paper, weeks 1 through 3. You know who has an elite defense by week 3. And the Cleveland Browns are definitely a candidate for one of those teams. So you got to watch out for them because any week they could hold anyone to 3 points and win that game. So
yeah,
definitely got to watch out.
I don't think there's a ton that we can speculate on with the Bengals at this point. I just don't.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. Talk to me like you said, week 3. That's when we start to get tells from the Bengals. The Bengals are still struggling like week 3, week 4, and they haven't had at least one game that looks like them again. That's when we can worry. But until then, I think it's time to.
How about them Dolphins?
Yeah, they're fucking awesome.
So Dolphins, I mean, look, I think that both teams are very flawed. I think it was like two the Dolphins and the Chargers both looking like teams that had huge flaws that kind of resulted in a really entertaining game. Would you agree with that? I don't know
Yes,
if the
absolutely.
Dolphins are necessarily going to be like world beaters this year, but I think that they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. I still like listening to Mike McDaniel and watching him on the sidelines. There was a guy, his name's like Dan something. He's a stand-up comic and he's in the show Billions. And I guess his best friend growing up was Mike McDaniel. And I'll send you this video, but he tells this great story about like playing Madden at his house when they were kids. And he's like, imagine the kid that you played Madden with as a kid, as a young man, is in Madden now. He's like, and he used to beat my ass in Madden because he would always just pick Deion Sanders and take him all the way back and pick me off every single time. And every time he was running it back to the pick six, he'd be like, prime time. And I'm like, I would be so mad in his basement. I'm like, wow, what a story we could all relate to. Mike McDaniel coming in through is like the most relatable millennial coach of all time again. And I
It
really
really
enjoy
is,
him,
man.
and I really enjoy the Dolphins in general right now. I think they're going to finish higher than the Pats, and because of what we've talked about in that division, they have the potential. They honestly, now that Aaron Rodgers is down, the Pats looking flawed. They're not going to be the best division winners, even in the AFC, I don't think, but they definitely have the potential to be the guys coming in as the winners in that division. What do you think? Do you predict what's going to happen?
Yeah, I could see it. That's for damn sure. Listen, the Bills just lost to a New York Jets team without Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson as their starting quarterback. So yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, you get Tua rolling against any team in the NFL at this point with Tyreek Hill, man. I don't think there's anyone that can stop them when they're actually rolling. It's going to be a tough team to beat, especially if you're going to be turning the ball over like the Bills tend to do. So I could absolutely see them winning that division. As far as this game, I completely agree that I think it is two flawed teams, and I think it's two teams that if it met in the playoffs, it would be one of those things where it's like,
I know.
which one is
That's
going to
kinda
give?
like game
Which
That's
which
kinda how that game,
which
like,
is
shaped up.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I still don't really believe in the Chargers as much.
The
I
Chargers
do
just
believe
are
in the
woefully,
Dolphins though, just
woefully fucking
because,
coached
like you
is the
said,
problem. They're incredibly
yeah,
badly,
they're
like,
so
that's just
bad,
gonna be
man. It's
true of their
so bad.
season.
And for Kellen Moore to be the answer is like, man, I just went
Yeah.
through Kellen Moore for 3 years,
Right,
Chargers fans.
right,
I
right.
guarantee you're gonna have
Mike
moments where you're gonna
McCarthy
love him.
calling those plays too. Looks like you got to eat crow on that one. Um, yeah,
Bro, for real
but we'll
though,
get
like,
there.
come on.
The one thing I will also point out is I was vocally talking shit about the Dolphins offensive line because they look like trash in the preseason. I didn't think they made a lot of additions in the offseason. I mean,
Look
they had
better.
Khalil Mack and fucking Bosa to contend with, and they looked pretty good. They did they let up
Yeah,
a
they look
sack?
pretty
I
good.
didn't see any because I was watching for him. I'm worried about too
Nope,
his
not one.
fucking brain health, so I am watching for those sacks. And I thought that week one was going to be the one where he gets fucking destroyed, but I guess not. So maybe I was wrong about their offensive line, and maybe they're just going to come together as a unit and do a job. But we'll see. Another one to just watch the space on this. Sorry. On this team because I do think that they have the potential to win the division. They have the potential to be very entertaining. The
It's so, it's funny you mentioned the writer's strike. It's funny because it kinda seems like we're rehashing the same exact conversations that we had last year because it's the same exact goddamn script. They're just
Yep.
putting the whole fucking thing out again. They're like, "Alright, Dolphins? Dolphins? Yeah, I mean, kinda good. We don't really
Yep.
know.
Yep.
Alright, yeah, we'll do
Yep.
that
You're
again."
not wrong. So, on that note, moving on to the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't. We talked about them briefly, but as a more in-depth conversation, I'm a little worried about them. I would maybe be worried if I was an Eagles fan. I think it's got Super Bowl hangover written all over it this season. I really do. They are so fucking stacked. I think that they do. Who is the running back? Did they pick up DeAndre Swift?
Yeah, the Swift,
Yeah. I
Rashad
like their
Penny,
backfield better last
and
season. I
someone
like their
else.
coaching better last season. I like the ways that they were able to cover Hurts and the holes in his game last season. I don't I I don't think so. I just don't think so in the NFC. I don't think they're the powerhouse that we thought they were. And quite frankly, if I'm going to overreact to week one, about anything, I'm going to overreact about the Cowboys versus the Eagles because the Cowboys look hell of a lot better than the Eagles in week 1. So what do you think? Are you worried about these guys? I mean, they haunt you.
No. To be perfectly honest, this is the year I think that we overtake them. Because the Super Bowl hangover, we've talked about it year in and year out, man, and I just think it proves itself every single year to be a thing that is a legitimate, real thing. And I don't think losing two of the best
Yeah.
coordinators in the game can be understated. Like, bro, when you have consistency in that offensive game room, in that defensive game room, it is everything. You know what I mean? You know what to expect when you're breaking down tape. You know what offense you're running. You know what where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there. You don't have to think about it. You just do it. And the lack of execution that you saw on Sunday, in my opinion, is because of this. You know what I mean? I do think a little bit did have to do with Bill, and
Yeah, but
him being the mastermind he
supposed
is,
you're
especially coming
supposed to be the
into
number one
one
contenders in
game.
the NFC. You got to overcome look convincingly that they did, right?
Yeah, yeah, they should have put them away because they were clearly the better team. We were all expecting it. Everyone was expecting it, and if Mac Jones is going to sit there, what do you have? He
You
had
got to
like
get
320 yards, bro.
yes,
It's
yes.
like,
Jones, he was good.
yeah, you can't let Mac Jones do that to you if you're going to be one of the better defenses in the league. You can't. You just can't, especially with the wide receiver core he has. Um, I know the Pats look better this week, but I was expecting way more out of Jalen Hurts. Way more. You're supposed to be an MVP candidate, bro. You know what I mean? He's supposed to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league coming into this year, all this upside. And it just didn't look again, it's hard to react to a week 1, but it didn't look like the
No,
Eagles that we thought it was gonna be. Didn't look
well,
like the Jalen Hurts, it
did
didn't
man,
look like the offense. Allen was non-existent, like, up
yeah.
and down, you know?
Um, yeah. I mean, well, I guess we'll see. But I have a feeling. I have a feeling that this might be a down year for them. So I guess we'll see how that goes. We sort of the Chiefs are number 3. We sort of talked about them already, but I do have to just call out your fucking your same thing. You're doing the same thing again. You watched them lose one game. You spent the whole off season lamenting to me that I was right and you were wrong. That I should have just believed in the Chiefs, and then you're like dropping them to number 3 in the power rankings, the fucking champions, and probably the best team on paper in the entire NFL. And they lose one game, week 1, with their best player on offense out and their best player on defense out, and you're dropping them down to 3 because Ray said so. I don't get it.
But I had him at 2 originally, and I jumped one team
Yeah.
up to number 1. We'll get there in a second, just because I had to, because I was able to and logistically back it up. But yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think they're the 3rd best team. I still think they're the champs, and, this week to me is gonna be very telling because if they go to 0-2, then I think there's different things to talk about, but, who did you say we said they're playing Jags this week, right? Yeah, it's gonna be a good game. Can't wait for that. But if they go to 0-2, that's a whole different story, but I don't see it coming. I have a feeling it's gonna be the same thing as that they're gonna be in the top 3 all year long.
Similar question
All year.
to move since we did a lot on the Chiefs already to move on to number 2. Similar question. How can both of these two things be true? Bobby says the Steelers are terrible. They're not good. They don't have a good team. Their quarterback sucks. Like it doesn't prove anything to beat them. But if the 49ers go out there and beat them, then they're number 2 on the power rankings overall. Whoa. Why is that such a big proof of life to you in the 49ers sense? I get that they looked elite defensively. I really do think they looked elite. But I will say, like, the Steelers looked fucking pathetic. Like, I really do think that they looked worse. They would have looked like that against anybody. They looked like they had never met each other during the field. Like, it was absolutely god awful. Their defense looked like a step behind everything. Their offense looked like it had no idea what it was doing. They did one thing right for the entirety of the game, and it was Deontay Johnson making a nice little move, and then he immediately goes down with a hammy. I don't know what the fuck they were doing out there, to be honest. So it didn't prove a ton to me about the 49ers, especially when the night game then comes and the fucking Cowboys defense looks like that. And it's like everyone's like, 49ers defense, 49ers defense. It's like, If you don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers are good, what does it prove to you?
So my biggest question mark for them coming into the season, I knew what they were. We know what the defense is. We know what playmakers they have. We know everything. The only thing we were wondering is if Brock Purdy was healthy and if he could be a
He's good.
legitimate quarterback. And I thought he looked good on Sunday. I mean, I know it was only 1 week, but the fact that he went from noodle arm, we don't know if he can throw, to making that one throw to, who was it?
Or
Was it
like
Ayuk? Yeah, it was
fucking
Ayuk in the
passes
corner of the end zone there.
you lit him up that day. It was awesome.
Bro, he was making some beautiful throws, so it's like, if he can make those throws, I think the sky's the limit for this team, you know what I mean? If they have a guy, 'cause you saw the team that they can be with a quarterback, they can't make those goddamn throws, you know what I mean? So if they have someone that can consistently make those throws to their big time
So
guys,
it's their offense
they're a
that's
tough
actually convincing
team
you.
to.
No,
Yeah, because listen, the defense already convinced us. We know who they are. You know what I mean? We know who that defense
I
is.
think that, I do. I'm not taking anything away from Brock Purdy. I really did think he had a great performance. I think I'd be more mad if somebody didn't have a great performance with the kind of weapons that they have. Like, you can just hand it off to Christian McCaffrey and have him break off for a run at any time. Debo, IU, there's guys all over all over the field for San Francisco that make them look dangerous. I don't think that there's a reason they shouldn't be number 2. I think they probably are number 2 right now in my head. They're probably number 3 for me. It's probably still the Chiefs at number 2. I'm not mad that you put the Dallas Cowboys at number 1. I think if they ever deserved the number 1 spot in the power rankings, it's after that fucking shellacking they just handed out. I'm proud of them for scoring me so many points on fantasy, but also, like, that was a beat down, bro. Like, I don't know. I don't remember the last time
Bro,
I've seen
yeah.
a game that lopsided, especially a night game in prime time. And against the Giants team that everybody had being above average at least coming into this season. Danny fucking doing time. Danny on his ass. Like, he got hit 56 times. It's insane.
I felt bad for him,
Dude,
but
I did too. They were dropping balls every chance they got. Picks, fumble recovery, sacks, tackles for loss, 0 missed field goals, 0 fucking points on the board. A fat goose egg, 40 on the other end, scored a ton by the defense. That Cowboys defense is unbelievable, man. And they're a real unit. They're a real unit now. And the guys that look like flashy young, the Diggses of the world, flashy young players that maybe had some holes in their game, letting balls go over their head last season. Nope, not the case anymore. Everybody's hitting. Everybody's a unit.
Mhm.
It was a lot of fun to watch, man. It was genuinely a lot of fun to watch. I watched the entire game. Like, when they were up 33-0, I was still watching and texting with you and being like, this is fucking crazy. But yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to do that every week, but man, what a confidence booster coming in. So please take your moment with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, man. I thought the coolest thing was that by 3-4 minutes into the game, you already had big plays by Parsons. You already had big plays by Diggs. You had big play by Pollard already.
I have
You
to
had a
talk
big
about
play
Tony
by
Pollard being
Lamb. It was like,
unshackled by not being in a committee. We said this.
God,
We said this
it's
all last
night and day.
but hey, you gotta say sorry to Mike McCarthy for talking that shit, because he called a hell of a game. He called a hell of a game. And you know what else he did? He made Dak Prescott the quarterback I told you Dak Prescott needed to be for the Dallas Cowboys to be successful.
It doesn't hurt when you're up 30 to
But
nothing.
you run a game management from the offensive side, right? Where you're asking the offense to score 14 to 21 points a week. And you're managing the game and asking them more so to take care of the football and not turn it over. That's the most important thing. So your defense can go to fucking work. Okay. That's what I told you was going to be the key to the Cowboys' success. Last season, they didn't do it. This season, seems like they're doing it. Seems like Dak's buying in. Seems like the play calling is seamless. And I'm into it. I don't usually love when a head coach takes over play calling. Usually that's a desperation move. But to call it before the season, I thought was smart. To just say, nope, this is what I'm doing. This is what's happening. Give me the keys. I'll be honest. I didn't think it was going to go that well, and maybe it still won't. Maybe there's ways that he's going to get found out. But if the defense can consistently play like that, Jesus Christ, does it even matter?
No, it doesn't. Like I said, they're the offensive defensive, or if you want to get that, the offensive defensive, because they have a chance to put up 21 points every single week, and they're not going. No, they're definitely not going to. But they definitely can. You know what I mean? Like any potential week, they can easily score multiple defensive touchdowns. I thought what was so cool too was the smaller guys making the plays, like I can't pronounce his name, the guy that returned the field goal for the touchdown. We have Damon Clark making plays all over the place. And the defensive line, man, that was the most impressive part of the whole thing. It is
I mean,
that
what have
front
you been?
seven
What have
was
you
just
seen? You got to
killer,
be able to
just
bring pressure with
vicious,
four
bro.
guys. You got to be able to four. And they
And
were
they
able
did
to
all
add
game
blitz
long.
packages that were immediate sacks. Because build on that pressure. It was
Yeah.
bananas. Even-
Well, I think what's huge is now, so Micah's fully transitioned to that defensive end position. So you constantly
Yeah.
have to keep two eyes on him, two guys at all times, and that just frees up everything else. And Micah's still getting his, but all the other guys have so much more freedom on that defensive line because he exists there now, man. Yeah, no, that defense is going to be special for sure.
Yeah.
I haven't had this much high hopes because if you ask me, they were by far, it wasn't even close, the most top to bottom, well-rounded team of week 1. And it wasn't even close if you ask me, like offensive execution, defensive execution, special teams execution. The Dallas Cowboys, crazily enough, like I can't believe I'm saying this, they executed that game perfectly. And they don't do that. So if that's something that can actually be done by then, and they can actually play clean football, game in and game out, I think that this could be, until we get to the playoffs, it's a whole different story. It could be a special
Poor
regular
Bobby,
season.
you can't even get excited about the postseason because of what the Cowboys have done. I'll say this also as a final point, and we can wrap this up. They didn't do it under the radar. They did it in Sunday Night Football, the first Sunday Night Football game of the season. And I think that there's been a historic representation of folding under the lights for the Dallas Cowboys as a franchise since we've been alive, or since we've been teenagers on, I guess. And the pressure of being a Dallas Cowboy has and Jerry Jones and that whole thing, I think has historically been a problem. And I have to credit Mike McCarthy, I think, for this. I really do think that he's gotten that team all reading off the same hymn sheet. Everybody's drinking that same Kool-Aid. And I was very impressed. Very, very impressed by the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, I mean,
That feels good.
honestly,
We made it through the whole
especially
segment.
since you've been sort of trained now to be more down on them and not get excited. And I was the one to pump up the fucking Chicago Bears, knowing that, not knowing that I'm going to be terrible. But I'm happy for you. I'm sure we're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys quite a lot. I mean, I'm really looking forward to watching. As you know, my favorite thing to watch is a Ballhawk Elite defense. It's my favorite thing in football. I haven't seen a defense like this in a long time. I mean, the 49ers are a great unit, but I don't know if they have the special athletes, as many special athletes, and as well coordinated of a defense as the Cowboys. They're very, very impressive. And I don't have that weird Dallas Cowboys thing that everyone else seems to have because they've always kind of been terrible since I've been watching football. So I don't really mind that they're good now. So, and you're my buddy. So I'm happy for
Thanks.
I'm here
I
for
appreciate
you,
the support, DK.
Still on. This week we have done our first regular season power rankings. This is going to be a lot of fun, as always. This week it was just me and Bobby. We're hoping to get everybody else more involved as the season goes on. But for myself, for the real BK, Bob Kelly, and everybody here, Mr. Point, happy NFL season, everybody. We are underway.